hope you're doing well. At the end of chapter 34 in Exodus, we see that Moses has seen the covenant that God made with him and Israel renewed, and he begins to restore and remind them of his laws and his rules for how they are to govern life. But I want you to see here in verse 29, it says, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, and he came down to the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone, because he had been talking with God. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. Whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the people of Israel what he was commanded, the people of Israel would see the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face was shining. And Moses would put the veil over his face again until he went in to speak with him. It is interesting that Moses granted this great privilege of speaking face to face, if you will, with God as friend, is impacted by the glory of God and the intimacy of their relationship. He had spent again 40 days and 40 nights without food and water in intimate conversation with God Almighty. And it impacted his life. And there was the glory of God shone on him, but he wasn't aware of it. And it makes me think that we will never, or we should never be aware of, in a prideful sense, of how God's glory has impacted us. But intimacy with God can't help but be reflected in our lives. The character of God, when we spend time speaking with him, hearing his voice and his call on our lives, how can it not impact us? How can it not be seen by others even if it isn't perceived by us? You see, we might be tempted to say, oh, I spend so much time with with God's glory. Look how my face shines. Well, that would be all about us and bring out a sense of arrogance and pride. But Moses had no arrogance or pride, but humility. He spent time with God. He received the 2 tablets again. He received the instructions of the Lord, but his face, his countenance was always impacted by being in his presence. And so I think the application for you and I as New Covenant Christians is to realize that we are that temple. And we have this great privilege of intimate conversation, communion with God all day, every day. We don't have to go into the tent of meeting. We don't have to go into the temple because we are that temple. And when we spend time listening and hearing and receiving his commands, all that he desires to do in and through us, it can't help but change the way we live. Not only our countenance, but in the way we live and express life. You know, there is sometimes an emphasis on the gifts of the Spirit. And people put a great emphasis on speaking in tongues and words of knowledge and of prophecy and casting out demons and miracles. And I'm not speaking against any of those things at all. But I think those things can be lost if they are used to draw attention or give glory to man. And I think they lose their power and become a clanging cymbal unless our lives manifest the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, kindness, goodness, and self-control. When people see and hear Jesus in us, then lives are transformed. Then the glory of God manifests and shines forth in our lives. And I hope that is your heart's desire. If you remember in the temple and the tabernacle, the Holy of Holies was separated by a veil because the people, because of sin, were not capable of entering in. Only the high priest on that one day. But do you realize that veil was torn down? Paul speaks to the Corinthians and reminds them that this veil has been diminished because we are his temple. We do possess his life. We are partakers of the divine nature. We've been given everything we need for life and godliness. The only question is, will we release that life? Refuse to live a self-willed and self-directed life out of our own resources, which is the flesh, and live life from him who is our life, that he might be glorified. And what a privilege we have to experience intimacy with our God in a greater sense even than Moses. I hope you'll think on it and let God live the life he has for you through you. Have a great day.